Call to order the Advisory Plan Commission meeting for Monday, September 27th, 2021. And before we get too far, if there's anybody left here for the docket for PCO 21-076, which is the Grand Vista East Annexation, that has been withdrawn. So we will not be hearing that this evening. So if you're here for that, you can or have to stay with us, or you can leave. All right. First order of business, the approval of the minutes from September 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dine, second by Monica. All those in favor of that motion, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any special requests for continuances?
None other than what you mentioned.
Seeing none, I've already made the announcement on the old business. Any old business from the floor? Seeing none. Under new business, PC 2020-026, the retreat waiver request where a subdivision requests a fire department emergency access road reduction from 20 feet to 16 feet. And it's not okay. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, for the record, Lance McElroy with Arbor Homes, 9225 Harrison Park Court, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46216. I did pass out a couple of photos to each of you for the access drive that we're referring to. We had 64 lots on the east side of our retreat, which is our destination product, our retreat subdivision on Combs Road. I'm sure you've seen it. We've straightened out Combs Road going up through there. 64 is just over the limit for 50 for having one entrance. So we needed to put in a second entrance, which is the fire department access, emergency access drive. We went through the construction plan approval in late 2019, early 2020 for both sections 1 and 2. Showed 16 foot on the access drive. We did not realize it was 20 foot. We would have corrected that during the process had we known. Unfortunately, at this point, it has been constructed, as you can see with the pictures. Kind of falls off on each side too. The grading is a little bit difficult through there. So to go back and try to remedy that now, to try to add 2 foot to each side, first of all, you don't add 2 foot of asphalt to the side of the asphalt that's there. We essentially have to rip it all out and try to put it in 20 foot wide and regrade it. There's been no one that said that they've had any problem with this. Tracy Rummel was the one that brought it up. He didn't say that he had any problem with it being 16 foot wide. Makes it a little bit tighter if like 2 vehicles have to get by. That would be if the main entrance is blocked and then someone starts blocking the secondary access entrance also. So likelihood of that happening is very low. So that's why we're here. I'm here requesting that waiver from the 20 foot wide to the 16 foot wide that has been installed. We normally wouldn't do this after the fact. We just did not know it needed to be 20 foot wide.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else on that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Questions that you have to
I guess I got one. For sure the fire department's okay with 16 feet versus 20.
I have spoken with the fire department, Tracy Rummel, our fire marshal, and this was his suggested remedy to the situation to bring it into compliance for Arbor Homes to seek this waiver, because this has already been constructed. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the lots on either side are platted and sold, if I'm not mistaken. So seeking the additional footage it's no longer coming from Arbor, it's coming from the homeowners. So that would be difficult to obtain.
Is there parking a lot on those streets?
No, this is an emergency access only. It's since this is a neighborhood over 50 homes or more requires a secondary means of access.
So there's no driveway access on this road?
No, this is strictly for police, fire, EMS.
Understood. Any questions from the commission? Being none, there's been a motion prepared.
I move that the request of Projects Plus on behalf of Arbor Homes for a waiver from the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 10, Article 25, Division 6 subdivisions, Section 10-06-21, fire protection, C, fire department access road. It specifies a minimum 20-foot width for fire department access roads in residential subdivisions, 50 or more one or two family residential lots, to permit a fire access road width of 16 feet for the fire department access road between lots 23 and 24 in the retreat section 1 be approved, and that the plan commission find that the criteria set forth by Greenwood Municipal Code section 10-04-05 I for the approval of the waiver has been met for the reasons set forth in the applicant's written waiver request and as presented by applicants.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, sir.
A motion by Mr. Johnson and second by Mr. Walker. All those in favor of that motion signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is PC 2021-058, Flats at Stones Crossing waiver. Flats at Stones Crossing request a waiver from the procedures in section 10-06-24 regarding the necessary items to release land alteration permit. May state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, Pete Cleveland, attorney for Schwartz Crossing Development. My office is at 429 West Pennsylvania Street in Indianapolis, 46204. With me this evening is Scott Schwartz in the background. We're requesting a temporary waiver of your drainage ordinance requirements, and I'll walk you through some photographs and diagrams to help explain the matter. The aerial photo that you see there, that shows the 97-acre Schwartz Crossing Commercial Center. That was originally platted for the first phase in 2017, and then the full phase, 97 acres, was platted in 2019. And we've come back to the various commissions and panels to have a replat of a portion of the development to allow for a market rate apartment complex in that southeast corner of the site where that red box you see is. Now, the red box identifies specifically the location of a drainage outlet easement. So there would be constructed as part of the plans a 5-acre detention pond in that location. You see about a 9-acre detention pond depicted in the photograph. So this was the 2019 plat, and again, the entire site was platted. And you see down in the bottom right-hand corner, what was the 5-acre detention pond at that time. There's a little protrusion there on the right side of that, and that is the area for the drainage outlet for the detention pond, and it abuts the Newland property to the east. Now, we completed that platting process. All right, so we completed that process, and there was no request for an off-site drainage easement extending from that outlet to the east and to the southeast. And that there is actually a natural drainage water concourse there. It's heavily wooded, deep ravine, significant fall. So I don't think it ever occurred to anyone that it would be necessary to even obtain an easement. Now, you probably heard in of course, all your real estate dealings. So the common law says that you can fight stormwater in any reasonable way, and there are certain restrictions, but that rule doesn't quite apply to natural established water courses. So it is coming to us as somewhat of a surprise that this is being asked of us now, but we're told it's part of your ordinance, even though it wasn't requested before. So this is the current plat that is pending, and in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the shaded area shows how the detention pond has been reconfigured, and this is the reason for the replat. The detention pond has been turned into an amenity for the apartment complex. The apartment buildings will circle the detention pond, and at a 5-acre size, it's a pretty significant amenity for the apartment complex. The drainage outlet is in the same location, extending out towards the east and the southeast. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's a small little line you can see there. This is an engineered plan that shows basically the drainage watershed that uses this regime. And what you see there are, to the left, of course, is the apartment complex part of the Schwartz Crossing development. Then to the right, 2 properties identified. The north piece is the Newland property, and the south piece is the Coleman property. And then there's a dashed line that follows basically the established water course all the way down to the L.W. Jones legal drain and Honey Creek. So that path follows through the 2 properties and has existed for, in that fashion, it appears to be undisturbed for years and years. This is a photograph of, again, the very well-defined established water course. This portion is through the Newland property. And in fact, there are some old drainage tiles extending from the Schwartz land into this ravine. So it's very well established. Not only does your ordinance say that the Newlands would have to come to you to alter that water course, but I would suggest that they're even by a matter of common law, the Schwartzes would have right to at least drain in its typical and usual fashion. If I have the engineering right with the detention pond, even 100-year event, there will be less water flowing from the Schwartz land down this ravine than exists or occurs today. And as you saw in that earlier diagram, most of the stormwater that uses that ravine is generated by the Newland property and Oak property itself. So very little is coming from the Schwartz property, even less under the engineered standards that will be applied. We have completed a survey of the property, and this just is the survey diagram just to show you. And we have been negotiating easements. The Newlands attorney called me today, and we have an agreement in principle on that easement, both the form of the easement and the monetary compensation. And the Rowland family is working through the document, and my thanks to Ashana for helping us develop the document. So she has approved the form of the document. We're awaiting approval of the exhibits to the document. We hope to receive when Paul returns next week. So although I think there would be credible grounds for asking for a permanent waiver of this, the need for express written drainage easements, we're only requesting a temporary waiver to give us time to complete the documentation so that we can obtain a land alteration permit and begin some of the initial site work, before the weather closes us out in this construction season. So that's the reason we're here, to just try to move this along, because we're pretty confident we'll be able to deliver the drainage easements to you very soon. So I think to summarize the request is we would request a waiver of the drainage ordinance as to the need for express, written, recorded off-site drainage easements for a period of time. And I would just suggest to you and Daniel maybe until December 1, to allow us just to initiate some work. And I don't know how far we'll get in this season. Obviously, this would be at the risk of the developer. If for some reason we run into a wall, we have to go back to maybe ask for a permanent relief on the drainage easements. So again, the request though would be for a temporary waiver of your ordinance with regard to the off-site drainage easements until December 1 of 2021.
And to be clear on the request, it is a waiver of the items that are required in terms of approval of a land alteration permit. The section number that is listed on your agenda, the 100624, that is the criteria that allows us to issue a land alteration permit. So we are not issuing a waiver of any actual storm water requirements. We are merely suspending that line item of what it takes to issue a land alteration permit. We're not necessarily absolving from requirement to do so. We are just essentially allowing this to begin moving dirt under that permit without fulfilling all of the checklist items.
That's a good clarification. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I guess it's a comment more than anything. Should you run into issues and have to come back for a permanent land alteration or permanent waiver?
Yes.
I'd really like to see that entered and not have the cost that is expended between now and then be one of the reasons for the permanent waiver.
Understood. If we had to request that, it would be based on the foundation that I've described, that there are common law rights and ordinance regulations that wouldn't even allow the duals to dam up that natural water course. It's my understanding the ordinance works both ways. We have to regulate the outflow. In this particular circumstance, they are not permitted without the approval to do any dam, but they have to reroute the water in some fashion.
Right.
So understood, there would be no reason stated regarding the expense incurred between now and at that time for any permanent waiver.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for
Anyone else? Seeing none, there's been a motion carried.
Mr. President, in regards to PC 2021-058, flats at Stones Crossing waiver, I move that the request of Schwartz Crossing LLC for a waiver from the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 10, Article 25, Division 4, Administration and Procedures, Section 10-04-05, Site Development Plan, Review Process, F, other required submittal 6, that requires the submittal of easements that are not on a plat-like document with the filing of the site development plan. Application to permit issuance of the land alteration permit for the flats at Stones Crossings development. Prior to submittal, required off-site stormwater drainage easements be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the required off-site stormwater drainage easement be submitted within a reasonable amount of time, Mr. Davis. 60?
He has requested about 60 days,
December 1 was.
should be 60 days from this coming Friday.
The number of days between now and December 1st.
65.
Plug that in, yeah. Of issuance of the land alteration permit, and that the plan commission find that the criteria set forth by Greenwood Municipal Code, Section 10-04-05, 1 for the approval of the waiver has been met for the reasons presented by applicant's representative.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shell and second by Monica. All those in favor of that motion, signify by raising your right hand. All those, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Good luck. Okay, next order of business is PC 2021-070, 1464 Stones Crossing rezone. This is a public hearing. There'll be 15 minutes for the petitioners, 15 for the remonstrator, 5-minute rebuttal for each. Those speaking for or against will need to be sworn in. I would suggest any remonstrators in the interest of 15 minutes, so you give as much time to each person as we can, not to repeat what somebody else has said, and use your time wisely. So with that, anybody that's going to speak for or against needs to stand and be sworn in at this time.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear in the penalties of perjury, testify about the truth and knowledge? I do.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Greg Oko. I'm with Crossroad Engineers with offices at 115 North 17th Avenue, Beach Grove, Indiana, 46107. Here before you, representing MGH Holdings LLC, Mr. Mike Cunningham with actually the Cunningham Restaurant Group is the developer, and I'll apologize in advance. Mr. Cunningham had a call that prohibited him from attending tonight. So we have all intentions of answering any questions that you or the audience may have, but I'd like to extend a sincere apologies for not being able to be here tonight. We're here for the requested rezoning approximately 6.5 acres from the residential large district to the commercial medium district. Just to, in his absence, I'd like to offer a little background on Mr. Cunningham and the Cunningham Restaurant Group. He is the founder and CEO, lives here in Indiana, and his mission statement of the Cunningham Restaurant Group actually speaks volumes, and it is in the communities we serve, we will be the restaurant of choice for delighting our guests. So as you can take from that mission statement, he is in the food industry and predominantly develops restaurants. With this community involvement through the Cunningham Restaurant Group, he also gives back quite a bit. He includes, he works with Second Helpings, they team up for the Indy area, and then also the Mary Lee Bader Community Pantry, which is an Avon-based food beneficiary or benefits those with food. And then Connecting the Pieces, which is a benefit to autism-based not-for-profits. So definitely hardcore in the philanthropy as well as the restaurant business. I highly recommend if you want to learn more about him, go to the webpage, and it's a plug at it's www.crgdining.com to learn more about Mike and the Cunningham Group. So what he does as far as what he brings to the areas are restaurants such as Boulder Creek, Brew Burger, Cafe 251, Charbonos, Delivery, Mesh, Mojita, Moorline, Nesso, Provision, Rise, Stone Creek, Tavern at the Point, Union 50, and Vita. You probably have recognized and undoubtedly have eaten at many of these restaurants and establishments. They are located in Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, all incredibly reputable and upscale restaurants. Where are they looking? Well, they're looking right here in Greenwood. So specifically the southwest side of the city, near the northeast quad of State Road 135 and Stones Crossing Road. There's a little yellow star there on the map of Greenwood that you can see. That's the vicinity map of the area. More specifically, we're at the northeast corner of Galena Drive and Stones Crossing Road. It is due south of the Barnet Bay Horse, due north of the project you just heard, towards the Stones Crossing Commercial Subdivision. The adjacent zoning, a lot of this is in Dale's map or Dale's report, but just to reiterate, The dark red to the south, as I mentioned, is Schwartz Crossing Commercial Subdivision, and it is the commercial large district. The orange-red area to the north there is the Barn Bay Horse. The orange-red also that you have a little bit further to the west there at the intersection of 135 and Stones Crossing, that's all commercial small. And then due west of us and actually adjoining the Galena Drive is the Copper Chase Apartments, which is zoned RMC. And then we do have predominantly RL residential large to the east. I will say that we do have also residential large, however, with a special exception for institutional use for the Emmanuel Church, which is basically in between the CS and the RMC there to the west. And then we have a little bit more commercial medium to the northwest and to the southwest. The land use map, I touched on a few of the adjacent developments already, but kind of up starting in the northwest, there's the Hearth at Stones Crossing. There's going to be a future Clover Senior Apartments due east of the Hearth at Stones Crossing. And then just south of that, I'm looking at the top left hand of your screen there, that is the undeveloped area of the Grove at Stones Crossing commercial subdivision. And then working clockwise, we've got Copper Chase Apartments, Barn and Bay Horse. Up to the northeast is the Cobblestone single family resident. As you work down to the southeast, you've got mainly single family residents. Again, due south is the future flats case that you just heard. Fronting Stones Crossing Road, just north of the flats, is going to be commercial in the CL district. And then we've got obviously the commercial to the west that's going to front State Road 135 and the Schwartz Crossing commercial subdivision. And then already constructed in the Schwartz Crossing subdivision, you've got the Franciscan Express Care Center and then Citizens Bank, which is already operating, or which has been constructed. The proposed layout for the 6.5 acres that we sat with staff, got some comments, did some tweaks, still conceptual, but this is the idea that Mike is looking to do is to split the 6.5 acres into 3 lots in a common area. 2 of the lots will be standalone restaurants, and then the lot about the southeast corner would be reserved for future commercial retail. We do propose access from Galena Drive with connectivity also due north into the drive that leads into the Barn and Bay Horse via an access easement. So although we'll be dedicating the necessary thoroughfare right away about Stones Crossing Road, we will not be proposing or asking for any additional accesses onto that thoroughfare. Drainage patterns will continue and route through the Copper Chase Apartments, where eventually they discharge into Auburn Branch. And then the landowner, and she signed the consent form, and she's actually here this afternoon or this evening. Amanda, who owns the Barn and Bay Horse, she's working in close coordination with Mike to ensure that above and beyond the ordinances, architectural ordinances that are in place that Dale mentioned in his staff report, she's making sure that the look, the feel, the styles complement the Barn and Bay Horse. And this is one of Mike's projects that he's constructed recently, just to give you a feel of what they're talking about. As far as the design criteria or the decision criteria with the request, as far as the comprehensive plan, the key point everybody brings up is the land use map, and I will concede that is one aspect of the comprehensive plan. And the land use map does identify this as a residential area. I will state that there's many areas in the city of Greenwood where the use does not necessarily jive with the comprehensive or with the land use map. So there are a lot of other components within that comprehensive plan. There are boxes I think that this development does check. Specifically, it provides development of high quality. It's complementary, full style and use to the existing developments in the area.
No environmentally sensitive areas are going to be negatively impacted. Access management, by us not requesting, actually taking away a driveway that currently exists on Stones Crossing and not putting any more drives on Stones Crossing, provides the access management that the comprehensive plan demands. And then we're accommodating bicyclists and pedestrians along major thoroughfares with the dedication of the right-of-way, construction of the path or the path sidewalk along the north side of Stones Crossing. And then obviously we're encouraging the use of common entrances and shared driveways by use of the Galena private drive and then also the drive from Barn Vehicles. So that we hit quite a few items on that comprehensive plan. The current conditions were adjacent to the east of the Emmanuel Church and institutional use, and then Copper Chase Apartments, which is a high-density residential apartment complex. And then obviously we've got the Barn Horse to the north of us, and then again the CL zoning district due south right across the street from this property, which will have some high-intensity commercial uses. And so from the current conditions, we fit right in there. The most desirable use, we are located just east of 135, obviously a primary arterial for the city of Greenwood and for the state. And then we're also located directly on County Road 700 North, Stones Crossing Road, which is the east-west corridor. It's coming this way, going to tie into 135. And then the proximity of the property with those major thoroughfares and the existing multifamily and commercial uses that we have lend themselves to the restaurant and commercial retail aspect needed or which require the CN zoning. Property values, the rezoning are just going to spur interest in the area of the adjacent commercial property, and buffers are going to be provided and they're designed established by an ordinance to protect other adjacent land uses. I did a quick look. I don't have access to all real estate numbers, but I did look at a couple lots that were recently sold this year in Copper Chase, or I'm sorry, in Cobblestone, and the address of 1341 was sold in 2017 for $407,000. It just sold in 2021 for $495,000, which is an increase of 21.6%. This is after Schwartz Crossing development has been occurring, Barn Bay Horse has been occurring, the Demery Crossing assisted living has occurred. Obviously, no negative impact to the value there. Similarly, in Cobblestone, address 2249 Bedford Court, sold in 2017 for $362,000. Sold just this year in 2021 for $436,000, increase of 20%. And this is this was near the Demery Crossing assisted living. The first example I gave was at the south end of Cobblestone that was close by Barn Bay Horse. And then lastly, just on the south side of West Stones Crossing Road, 3 properties east of the Schwartz Crossing commercial subdivision, which is under construction and being developed. That property actually sold in 2014 for $110,000, and it resold in 2021 for $289,000, almost $290,000. So that's an increase of 163%. So from a land value, property value aspect, I would say that the market is going to command and fluctuate the values way more than the zoning of a CM at this property. And then as far as responsible development and growth, obviously this is the highest and best use of the property due to its location. The development, again, is consistent with the adjacent uses with the commercial, the institutional, and the high density residential. So with all that, I'm not sure how much time I have. We do have a couple people that could speak on behalf. I don't know if they did during the demonstration period or public hearing time, or if they want to speak during my time.
You got about 3 or 4 minutes left.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you.
I will go ahead and allow Amanda, if there was a neighbor or two that wanted to come up.
Yeah.
My name is Colleen Gordon. I'm a real estate agent with Century 21 Sheets, and my address is 1455 West Stones Crossing Road, which is basically due south of where the proposed development is. And the reason I'm speaking, not only as a real estate agent, but also a resident and a livestock owner that has livestock there. I feel like the proposal is only beneficial to us. I'm excited to see something come down there. I haven't seen anything proposed or seen anything that was built that is not added to the property values and been done in a very nice fashion, and something to basically enhance our community and not deter from it. So that's just my personal opinion.
Okay,
Thank you.
we got one more minute. We're here.
That's it. Hi, Mark Clark. I live at 2000 Dockside Drive in Greenwood, 46143. I also am here in support of this development. I think a couple of other things. The engineer brought up some great points in community actually, followed by the colleague's words. But the other thing I think is important is that this will alleviate some traffic on State Road 135, which, I'm sorry, in my opinion, is just miserable. And I think that some of us drive into that area for different dining choices, and by moving a good community asset. The Barton Bay Horse has been a tremendous asset to our community. It attracts a quality resident. We've been to many events there. I've never seen any issues, if you will, of people being there, overstaying their welcome, whatever it is. And I would suspect that working with the Cunningham Group in the past, as I have on a professional level, I would expect the exact same thing in this development. Sorry, thank you, Carl.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anybody to speak against this? And you were sworn in, correct? Okay. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Lynn Gish, and I live at 1450 West Stones Crossing Road, 46143. I'm not opposed to developing. I'm opposed to having it 40 feet from my house. It's immediately next door. I refer to it as a strip mall. One building is 15,400 square feet from the property line, 40 feet from the property line. And I look out my bedroom window and that's what I see. They're talking about taking out the trees. There are a lot of dead trees in there that need to come out. Drainage is our first priority. Our ground does not drain. We have standing water. From the rain we had the other day, we still have standing water. And there's standing water in the proposed areas where they're going to build. The barn, when it was built, and I love the barn. I love the barn. When they put the blacktop on the driveway, it began to drain over on our property. And before it was gravel. And it probably drained, but it didn't really seem to affect us. Now we have standing water. We've got 3 acres. And the house is in the front acre, and then there's 2 acres behind. And the 2 acres behind hold water. It's working its way further down so that all along our fence, there's standing water. If it rains, I'll guarantee it's there. So that's one of our primary concerns. Traffic, increased traffic, noise. The weddings lately have been getting very, very loud. They do normally stop right around 11 o'clock, but we go to bed early and the noise is very loud. This past Friday night, they had a wedding and my husband called Saturday morning to complain about the noise. If it's music, we love that. But if it's screaming, hollering, DJs doing the music and everything, we don't care for that. We're concerned our property value is going to go down because of all this. There's going to be more trash, and That's about all I can think of. As far as the design of the buildings, I'm sure knowing Amanda, they're going to be nice. I just don't want them next door to me. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one? Mr. Oko, you get a 5-minute rebuttal.
I'm sorry, we're on Zoom. There are some people that wanted to speak.
Okay, go ahead. Well,
They need to have the oath administered.
you need to be sworn in, and then we'll get your name and address for the record.
Are they on the screen?
Brent, did you?
Sure. I guess I need to be sworn in, you said?
Okay, do you swear with penalties of perjury, testimony about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do. My name is Britton Shohorn. I live at 1571 Demery Road, Greenwood, Indiana. And my property is just north of where this is going to be taking place. And so you have the bay, the horse farm, and then just to the north of that is my property line. And like the lady said before me, we do have quite a bit of water runoff. I know they have a retention pond there already, but it just doesn't seem to be keeping up with what's already there. So my concern is with this additional building, additional asphalt that's going to be coming down, that runoff is going to continue to go into our backyard and flood our, we have about 5.5 acres, and our whole field and our creek and everything gets flooded back up. So it's already a concern for us, and now we're getting surprised with this new addition, and we're concerned with that, as well as the additional noise that's going to be coming, because we already do have some noise issues that come with the venue that's already there. I mean, we kind of deal with it, you know, it's part of the process there, but that additional noise will be more concerning as well, because we're already at times getting woke up at night and things like that. So that is a concern. So the noise, the water runoff, and the trash are big things for me as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else that's attending via virtual, or any other persons who want to speak against this?
I would like to.
Okay, let's get you sworn in.
Yes,
Okay, do you swear with penalties of perjury or perjury and testimony that is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Pamela Kohler, 1362 Winfield Way, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. My property, I actually can see the barn from my front porch during wintertime when there's no leaves on the trees. So that's where I'm at in location to all of this. Speaking to what was spoken about earlier about property values, right now property values have gone up all over the entire United States with the housing situation. So as far as talking about how much property values in our neighborhood of Cobblestone have gone up, I don't think that's really relevant. But what we are most concerned about is the commercial crawl. Once this is approved, what's next? You know, the barn was the first. Now they're coming back asking again, what happens if this is approved? Is that the domino effect on all of the properties that are along Stones Crossing? That is my concern.
Okay, is that it?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have one I need to read into record. This came from Shannon Thompson. And it's concerning the zone map change for PC 2021-070. My name is Shannon Thompson, and my residence is 1447 West Stones Crossing Road, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. I oppose the zone map change for the property located at 1464 West Stones Crossing Road, Greenwood, Indiana, from RL residential to CM commercial, due to the negative impact it will have on the surrounding residential community and the residents. Listed below are the concerns on how the commercial development would impact this area. Drainage, excess water runoff from paved commercial area. The area along Stones Crossing Road has poor drainage and has standing water after normal rains. The excess water runoff would add additional water to the surrounding residential properties and add water to the home's crawl spaces. This excess water could also cause problems to septic systems of the surrounding homes. Lighting. The lighting for the commercial area would illuminate the surrounding residential area and could possibly shine into the homes. Noise. The commercial property area will have a significant increase in the amount of noise in the residential area. This would be throughout the day and into the late night. Building height. There is no mention about the maximum height of the proposed commercial buildings. Tall buildings next to ranch-style homes in the area would not be appealing to the residential neighborhood. And buffer area. There isn't a description of the design of the buffer area or a description of how it will be installed. The site map also shows that the trash area would be close to the buffer area and the residential area to the east. That was from Ms. Shannon Thompson. All right. So, Ms. Jelko, you got 5 minutes for your vote. Or, yes.
Thank you very much. So going down my list, and it's Ms. Janice Lynn, or who's Lynn, your last name? Okay, I apologize.
Lynn's my middle name.
Middle name, okay. Is it Gish?
Yes.
Last, okay. So the 40-foot buffer is what the city of Greenwood has imposed on non-compatible uses. So in this situation where we have the commercial medium, if it's the Planning Commission and council both have this move forward, council approve it. The 40-foot buffer with the required plantings would be included. There's some screening involved in that as well that would help alleviate and soften the retail component of that development. Drainage, I know that we're at a zoning stage, but obviously the site plan did identify where the detention pond is to be located. And again, the drainage patterns are going to remain the same. And this will discharge it. We did actually the drainage for the Schwartz Crossing, and we did the drainage for Barnett Bay Horse as well. So the detention ponds, in conjunction with the Copper Chase detention ponds, all drain towards, as I mentioned before, the open channel creek, and those will all be done per ordinance. So if there's standing water on their property now, we're not going to fix standing water on their property after the fact. We are not going to contribute water to current standing water on their property. We're going to collect, treat both in quantity and quality stormwater runoff from our site per the stormwater ordinance. There was a lot of talk about noise, hours, and all that. What we're looking at here in the 6.5 acres is a commercial development and restaurants that I don't have the specific hours, but I would speculate that they would be typical restaurant hours. And then moving down to Ms. Shellhorn, again, to talk about drainage, I touched on that already. The trash, obviously there's going to be receptacles for all the components of the proposed development here, and it would just behoove the developer to keep this site clean. I would suspect that the Cunningham Group is not going to develop and produce a product where there's going to be trash about, especially with the quality of restaurants that they're talking about bringing. Ms. Kohler mentioned the property values. I think she spoke exactly to my point that it's the market that is going to determine these property values, and that the land use adjacent to them obviously had no impact. I actually presented on a separate or earlier rezone opportunity on this very property 3 years ago, and presented the exact same case where even before the Rona and before the escalated values, that properties in the adjacent area, cobblestone specifically, property values increased. There was no decrease. I have seen absolutely no evidence of decrease in property values going back to 2017 up to today. And then the commercial crawl, we're actually no further east on this than what's to the south of us. So I would say that we're not expanding any further east with commercial development from 135 than what we already have, albeit to the south of us there, but we're there. As far as the information you read from Ms. Thompson, the drainage I touched on, lighting will meet the foot candle requirements without any light pollution. Noise, again, I touched on that. And then building building heights will meet the zoning code and the required maximums that are, or well, not exceed the maximums that are stipulated in the zoning ordinance. She mentioned the buffer area also. Going back to the noise again. Again, we're on the east-west corridor here. This road's going to be widened to 4 lanes very soon, hopefully. And it's a well-traveled road, a primary arterial for the city of Greenwood that really needs this use here and not just a house. From a tax base and from a use standpoint, this is going to benefit the city and the community quite a lot. So I think with all that, I've read the staff report, and Dale had a very thorough report. We agree with all the conditions that he had listed in there. Greatly appreciate his recommendation of forwarding a favorable recommendation to council. And so I would greatly appreciate that recommendation. And with that, I'll happy to answer any questions you got.
Right. For the demonstrators, you've got 5 minutes to respond to Mr. Oko's comments. You've been sworn in?
Just want to make a quick comment. For the record,
Wait, I need to
I am
get
not a Ms. I am a Mr. last time I looked.
Mr. Thompson. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
I apologize. Anybody,
Oh, sorry.
you have 5 minutes to respond to Mr. Oko's comments.
Like I said, our major concern is drainage. Like I said, when they built the barn, the driveway was gravel. We didn't have any complaints. Then they blacktopped the driveway. And now our field stands in water and it drains toward our house. We just spent $10,000 putting in a new drainage thing underneath the house and sump pumps and everything else to keep up with this water. That ain't gonna get better unless we have sewer. The groundwater is not gonna get better. But if we had sewers, there's times we can't flush our toilets. The toilet, the septic system is right outside our back door, and the toilet goes into it. We can't flush. The groundwater is higher than the septic system. So that is a huge, huge concern. They're talking about the property value, I get the apartments and the housing addition mixed up. The housing addition that is down at Honey Creek Road. They're not really affected by this, but when this came up before and they wanted to build a hotel, everybody was against it and hundreds of letters got sent out. This time there were either 4 or 5 letters, a couple of phone calls. But when I got my letter, I called Amanda. Amanda didn't call me, and our property is immediately next door, and I think we should have deserved a phone call. Oh, I got to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Darlene Zeman, I have a question.
Well, hold on, just, I'm sorry, who was that?
My name is Darlene Zeman.
Have you been sworn in?
I have not, and I'm sorry, it's Edmonds.
Okay. Steve.
Okay. Do you swear no penalties for perjury, testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Darlene Edmonds. I'm property owner at 1442 West Stones Crossing.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is of this. In the presentation, you made sure to mention what would be north of this, what would be east, or what is east of it. I'm sorry, that they do lie east of the church and that they, how are affected by what's on the south. You said nothing about what they lie west of, and that is all residential. A few years ago, when it was proposed that a hotel go in, I was approached by Amanda to sell her the property because at that time she wanted to turn it into horse property. My concern is now, what is going to happen to the west of this group? Since everything that will be to the east, north, and south is basically commercial or residential past the other side of 135. What happens to the west of this development?
Okay, we'll try and answer that. Let's get through the public hearing and then we'll try and address that.
All right, thank you.
Last one.
I read it. Do you swear no penalties for perjury, the testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do. Good evening, Randy Gooden, 1157 Central Park Boulevard, South Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. As someone who has the pleasure of living 40 feet from a commercial development and understanding the concerns, the biggest concern being noise, and I will share with you, I've tolerated it for a long time. I would ask the developer if they would commit in their buffer zones that are abutting to residential, if they would take those buffer mounds 8, 10 feet and then plant their screening atop of those, just like we did for the commercial developments out near University, where we asked them to take those up to control the flooding of the light, to control the noise, because you all know, I live next to the gas station. And so the bass gets very, very loud, people get loud, and I don't think that we should suppress that, but put something there as a commitment to help ease that for the homeowners.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And I'll open up questions and comments from the commissioners. Mr. Dine?
Mr. Ilko, these are going to be restaurants that have liquor license, not bars, correct? I mean, maybe I'm splitting hairs, but it's not going to be advertised as a country western bar or the local nightclub. It's going to be where families can come, bring their children, and if they want to have a cocktail or whatever, they can, but it's not being advertised as just a bar and a hangout, correct?
Correct, full service restaurants.
Okay. You're guaranteeing us and the people in that neighborhood that what you're going to do will not increase the floodwaters or any other problems with drainage?
What I'll guarantee, and this might sound like a political answer, but I will guarantee that the development will meet the stormwater ordinance and be designed such that it improves conditions on the site, accommodates any off-site drainage runoff that comes through it, and discharges it into an acceptable defined channel.
Well, I understand you're not going onto their property and drain it, but I just want to make sure what you're creating isn't going to create a bigger problem.
We are not allowed to do that.
I appreciate that. And then the lighting, I'd like to see, some sort of commitment. I don't know what Dale has, where the lighting's not going to reflect on the private homes and everything. I understand that it has to be lit up, but you can do different lighting where it's not going to, pollute the other residential areas, if you would.
We do have standards for the step down of lighting next to residential, so we'll get that during the site plan review.
That'll all be addressed in the primary class.
I just want to get something out here.
I got you.
Maybe reassure some.
No, that's good. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I did want to make a clarification on the staff report. Seeing the images that Mr. Locos presented, and knowing the next item on the agenda, which is amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance, I want to make two clarifications. One, if the amendments that are passed by, if they are passed, I'll put it that way, by the council, should any conflicts arise between the commitments as written, because those are verbatim from our ordinance, and what is passed at council, I would want what is passed at council to rule, just because I do not want to create future conflicts for Mr. Ilka.
Okay.
The other is, if you liked that building architecture, I would suggest amending the staff's commitments to include insulated metal panels as a approved building material. Because right now, they would be limited on how much of that they can use. And in seeing the images Mr. Ilko provided, they would exceed that number. So if you liked the architecture that was provided, I would suggest adding insulated metal panels as an improved building material. But I'll leave that to your all's discretion. I just want to make sure that those 2 points are clarified.
Does that need to be addressed now?
Well,
Or,
if they're gonna be
well, we
part
don't
of
have
the
an overlay,
commitments.
we don't have an overlay committee.
No, not if it's gonna be part of the commitments that you've got, you have to meet these development requirements, and it's not currently allowed, then you would have to specifically say you can include the insulated metal panel as part of improved building material.
Is there a percentage to that?
Currently, metal is limited to 20%.
And so what we should do is make a recommendation that.
And
additional metal panel-
that standard is proposed to change in the Unified Development Ordinance updates
To,
to have, so metal itself, like corrugated metal or any other type of metal, still limited to 20%. Insulated metal panels, like what's going on in the field house,
Mhm.
those would become an allowed material, like, just
Okay.
like brick or
Mhm.
or any other material.
with no.
So that is a proposed change. It's not adopted, but that's why I want to make sure we're all clear on what we approve. So that, when we go to review Mr. Elko's proposal, we're just not back here or before these.
Okay. So there was several items in the commitments, weren't there?
And my name is Britton Shellhorn, and I was told to speak up after one of the speakers, and you closed the public comment before I could speak again. I didn't know if I'd have the ability to do that real quick.
I'll reopen the public hearing. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. One, I was also addressed as Miss, so I'm definitely a Mister. I know we live in different times now where you can identify as different things, but I definitely identify as my actual gender. And the biggest concern after that rebuttal that I still had and didn't get the warm and fuzzy on was the pond, the retention pond that will be there for the water. Before it was said that it was going to be good enough for the property that's just to the north of it, and it hasn't. It's flooded it. Unbeknowingly to me, a neighbor has had to have her crawl space and area worked on, but we've also had to do it as a result as well. We had to put about $15,000 to adjust our property to these developments that are happening. So we're just concerned that we're going to have to do even more, and that this isn't going to be able to keep up with this new addition as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Close the public hearing. A lot of the concerns with drainage, the retention pond, where it's going to be addressed in the primary plat. Is that correct?
There will have to be a drainage report with the primary plat test.
Okay. And the stormwater ordinance again states that we cannot discharge on surrounding property. Or how, I may have that wrong.
Make the amount of runoff more than it was pre-development, post-development cannot off water
More than it was
pre-development,
originally.
correct, yes.
Okay. So that, and then I think it was mentioned the lighting would be addressed as well. It's got to be 0-foot candles at the perimeter of the property. And that's done by using down lighting or shades or deflectors. I don't have anything else. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Shaw?
Yeah, I've got a comment. When go back a few years when the hotel was discussed, one of the items that was brought up was the general principle of urban planning is you have a commercial zone, and you have a higher density residential such as the apartment complex rather than single family homes. Is that the basic premise that you guys go on as planners?
But that is, yes, that's the way to step down the uses, and staff support stems from the Fords Crossing to the south and the Barn Bay Horse to the north. So, but yes, this is immediately adjacent to single family and between that and apartment complex.
And the Barn Bay Horse was kind of past that. It's out in the woods and pretty quiet. And yeah, they have parties and stuff like that. And occasionally you'll have something on whoop whoop or something. But this would definitely be jumping the apartment complex with multiple commercial businesses. I just have a concern about pushing a commercial that far to the east and that close to the heavy residential area.
For the record, I think I know the answer to this, but for the record, what is west? The question was asked. What is due west of this development?
I think she meant east. The due west of the development is due west is going to Drive, which is part of the apartment complex, Copper Chase. And then to the west of that, heading towards I-135 is Emmanuel Church.
They own the grassy field.
Yes.
And then the church property
And that's
itself.
And the church is special use residential. Did I hear that correctly?
Institutional uses are allowed in virtually every district, so
Okay.
it's allowed. Yes.
Okay.
So to the east and
East is
the east
residential.
is large residential, which I did make a comment on that.
Okay.
Copper Chase to the
I'm sorry, this is Darlene. I had asked that question about plans for the west of this development.
If she meant west, it's not our property. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's owned by. the
I'm
church.
sorry, forgive me, I'm not used to my directions yet. I haven't lived here that long. What I mean is the property is east of the church, and the church is obviously west of the property, but nothing was said about what they're planning to do east of that property.
It's all zoned residential, and there's residents living there now, so there's no immediate plans to move any farther east unless somebody comes in and buys up these residential homes and wants to try and get it changed. But as of right now, everything to the east of this property is single family dwellings.
But we are not, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. We are not to the east. We are to the, I'm sorry, we are to the east. You're right. They are all residential homes. That's it. I don't know, is that going to do something? Are there going to be future plans where they want to start taking ours over as well?
We have no idea. Have no idea what future.
I
plans
guess
are.
I'd be looking for some kind of guarantee, and I know that you're unable to do that at this point.
Right.
The developers cannot force anyone from their home. It has to be a contract between the owner and the developer. So if the owner does not wish to sell, the developer cannot impose anything upon their property with that power is not the developer's. So unless the residents all get together and want to sell together, those homes are staying.
That's correct.
And there would have to be a zoning change as well.
Correct.
Right. They'd have to come back before this commission. I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed.
That's correct.
Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Oh, that's fucking crap.
Excuse me?
She lived in her address, didn't she?
We can have him taken off. Any other questions, or comments from the commission? All right, seeing none, there's been a motion prepared.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
I move the petition for the zone map change to rezone approximately 6.578 acres of land located at 1468 West Stones Crossing Road within the city of Greenwood, Johnson County, Indiana, from RL Large Lot District to CM Commercial, medium format district use. As set forth therein, receive a favorable recommendation from this commission to the Greenwood City or Common Council, and that the same be certified to the Greenwood Common Council in the form presented with the following commitments.
Before we move forward, you please present the statutory criteria.
I will remind you, before you make a decision on a recommendation to the common council, Mr. Ilko addressed it, that you are to pay reasonable regard to the following items. 1, the comprehensive plan. 2, the current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district. 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the Greenwood jurisdiction. And 5, responsible development and growth.
Your motion stands?
Yes.
Okay,
Did he,
Mr. Walker. Favorable.
okay, well, did he also address the commitments?
Yes.
With the following commitments,
I don't have that listed.
which
As in the staff report, with the additional change that if amendments to the UDO are adopted by the city, any conflicts that arise between what are in these commitments and the amended text, then what the amendments are will be the controlling commitments. That's understood.
It is understood.
and I want to add to that motion, the use of aluminum
Insulated.
insulated.
Insulated panels, metal panels are an allowed building material.
Correct. Yes.
All right. All right. So there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker and second by Mr. Dye. All those in favor of that motion signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. 3 opposed. 4 opposed. Motion carries 5-4. Thank you. We have one more item on the agenda, so we'll wait for you to move out. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, PC 2021-086 UDO text amendment.
It is.
It is a public hearing. 5-minute petitioners, 5-minute response, demonstrators, and I assume Mr. Davis, you'll be presenting.
I will be.
Okay. You have it sworn in.
Swear on penalties for perjury, the testimony about the truth, the best of your knowledge.
I do. Good evening again, Planning Commission. We have been working with our new Unified Development Ordinance for nearly a year. If we stay on this track, we will be moving amendments through exactly 1 year after we adopted the plan. So right on time. As we've worked through this ordinance for the past year, some items have come up that we know need to be addressed. This, what's been prepared for you in your staff report is a summary of those. We prepared it in 2 ways. One is there's an itemized list, and with that list, we tried to state the purpose for each of those changes, because honestly, there's a lot of changes, and I did not want to take the next 3 hours of your lives walking through those one by one, but I will summarize. Some of the, but we also have a red line, so you kind of see how that all fits together in the document.
And I would like to give credit to Amanda Leach of my office, who took that itemized list and pulled our UDO and put that red line document together, so that when you looked at it, it made sense and you knew exactly what was being changed. So.
And I do certainly appreciate that.
Yeoman's effort.
So when you look at the master list of uses, the suggestions there, the additional uses are things we were covering under our kind of general zoning categories. But in using the ordinance, we realized some of these uses need to be called out a little more specifically, because there was just too much question about it. So we felt that, through my determination as the director, we were covered. We were able to give these uses a place to go. The ordinance did cover it, but this makes things a lot cleaner, a lot more specific. There were some uses that appeared that they needed to expand into other districts, specifically like gas stations. You could have them in commercial medium because it was driven more by the lot size. However, they make a lot of sense in commercial large too as an outlaw. So some of the changes in this ordinance really reflect allowing commercial large to be used as an outlaw as well. So the original intent of the ordinance was, those outlaws to be commercial medium, the building itself to be commercial large, your big box that sits behind it. This makes the land development part of it a little bit easier.
Is that when Kroger or Walmart or somebody puts their own branded gas?
Yes.
Out at the street?
Yes. So working through this, there was, and I'm just going to note a couple of things. I noted looking through the red lines today. The red lines called out a travel stop, not a truck stop. So if there's a conflict between the documents, we'll go with the itemized list. Another one of those is on the lot width for the RA zone. That should be 24. But there's a little bit too much strikeout in the red line. And the reason for that lot width is we were talking a lot with developers. Having an odd lot width was really causing some issues because lumber comes in even widths. So we went to 24. Going to the airport commerce district, we had some signage changes to airport commerce. One thing that we'll need to add to this list to strike in 100228 is, quote, same as IM district. That is for the signage in airport commercial being the same as the IM district. We've actually assigned the airport commerce to sign types in the ordinance now, just to make it a lot cleaner. So when you switch to the signage page, it's not like, where did it go? That has been a common issue. So we did work through the signage some. The monument signs in the red line were missing from AC and OMS and OT. So we need to make those clarifications that is in the itemized list, that's not in the red line. So the meaning behind this is airport commerce wasn't anticipated to be as commercial as it's becoming. And open space now encompasses the majority of the institutional users, and their signage needs are just, they're not being met by our ordinance. We're not giving them nearly enough options. So we need to open that up a bit for those users. And then I think the biggest change in this ordinance is the accessory structures. Accessory structures, I mean, if you listen to a PCA meeting, we get a lot of them. And to me, that says something's wrong with our code. So we are working to address that with these changes. Currently, our accessory structures say something to the effect of, well, the material should be similar to the home. So if you have a home that's siding, they're home free. If you have a home that's 100% brick, that's going to be one expensive shed. So what we're looking to do is put our standards in line with what our usual recommendations are. Having, for smaller structures, if you want a wood shed, it's a box shed. But once you get up to the second size, up to that 500 square feet, there's a little bit more construction standard to it. But once you get to the bigger structures, let's make sure they've got the brick wainscots, they're set up for a little bit longer life. There's no more debate over, well, this one has to be brick, this one has to be siding, this one. We'll let people have, have the steel bollards they're looking for, but require a little bit more of a robust base, with the intent of hopefully by defining our standards clearly, we are going to drastically reduce our BCA cases. The building design standards, there's a lot of clarifications in here. I think the biggest change is something I was hitting on with our last item, and that is we would like to include insulated metal panels as an approved building material in commercial and industrial. I mean, seeing the field house go up, that's insulated metal panels. When the ordinance was written, we put a 20% limit on steel as a reaction to like the type of construction liquor store is over by Main at 65. I mean, it's just corrugated steel. That's not what we wanted to see. But with these insulated metal panels, they do provide a much higher quality finished product. Some people have wanted to use them. We see no reason to not allow it.
Yeah, there's something in there about trash cans for residencies. What was that about?
Which one's that? Sorry.
About trash cans.
We'll go ahead and let him get through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then I can close the public hearing.
I thought you just said it,
Sorry. Beekeeping, there's just a typo in red lines, it's property line, not property line. That is, I just wanted to run through those couple of typos and also some of the bigger changes here. Like I said, it's all kind of listed out in purpose here. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
You done?
I know.
Anybody speak against? Now you go.
The trash can. I read it in the one that was all listed in the column.
Okay.
Something about trash cans can no longer be like on the, they can't be in the front of the yard, right? Is that what it says?
Right.
That's behind the setback of the garage around that area. Is that what it is?
That's the commercial, we can't have them in front of us.
Oh, okay.
So the keeping of the residential ones, that's not really addressed here.
That's more of a homeowners association.
No, we actually have a property maintenance code. If you have a residence, you are not to put your trash cans in front of your house. It's supposed to be behind your front building.
Yeah, a lot of people put them in front of their garage.
Yeah, it's supposed to be sitting in front. It's supposed to be, and that's under a different section of the municipal code.
Okay, cool.
You get a nasty gram. You do that in my neighborhood.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I have one. What you're saying about the metal panels, what are you just limiting that to insulated metal panels?
Yes. We specifically want to add insulated metal panels as an approved material.
Okay. Aluminum composite panel is a very good panel as well. It's not insulated, but it's a very good substrate.
Okay.
And you might consider that.
If I trust your opinion on that type of thing. So if you wanted to make an amendment as part of your motion, I would not be opposed.
Okay.
I just want, the intent is to not allow corrugated steel
I got you.
or.
No,
or
there's,
similar.
yeah, these are engineered, usually engineered systems that have a drainage system with them and all the weather ability is behind the panels.
Yeah.
And, it's a very high quality pan.
Multiple textures, similar to the insulated metal panels, can be hammered steel or
Okay.
smooth.
Yeah, it's an aluminum sheet and it's got a plastic basically, like a better term, composite in it, and it's got another aluminum sheet and they're all formed. And I think it's trying to think of a job here in Greenwood. It's got one that escapes me right now. But, okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, so on page 984 of the red line, we have the industrial building design standards, front elevation 1. Actually has, front elevation shall be comprised of any one or any combination of the following materials: stone, brick, fiber cement siding, engineered wood siding, precast concrete. It has 4 insulated metal panels being added, but you want that to be changed to insulated metal panels or aluminum composite panel.
Yes, and
Yes.
we also want that changed on page 981, commercial design standards.
Hang on. Keep up, y'all. It's hard enough trying to put it in the red line.
Yeah.
Aluminum composite panels, okay. Or aluminum composite panels. All right.
And what other page?
981, the commercial design standards.
It's not on my 981.
D1, frontal elevation.
Don't know where you're at on this. And make sure that you give me after the meeting all of the typos that we need to change, because this is what's going to be attached to the ordinance.
Shauna, it's at the end of 980. It carries over to 981.
Right. And so I'm looking at 980, side elevations. Rear elevations, mortar masonry, stone, brick, fiber cement, siding, engineered wood siding, or stucco. And you want to add insulated metal patterns there
Panels.
to rear elevation. I just need to make sure I'm adding it to
It's-
place. Then commercial buildings go over to page 982 on my 982 has the commercial front elevation. Yeah, yeah, so I don't think it's on the 981 on the red line. I think it's on page 982 on the commercial building design standards.
Yes.
Insulated metal
It must have-
panels.
it must have moved-
Yeah.
it must have moved down with adding the text for the red line. But yeah, so it'd be commercial mixed use design standards, front elevation 1. It says currently or insulated metal panels, we would add the composite aluminum.
Okay.
You need to remind you the criteria before you make a motion, because you're making a recommendation.
Or any other questions, or comments?
Okay. A reasonable regard to the following in rendering the recommendation. 1, the comprehensive plan. 2, the current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district. 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the Greenwood jurisdiction. And 5, responsible development and growth.
Okay, before I take a motion, do we need to add the aluminum composite panel in our motion?
Well,
Or you've already
you
got
would,
it?
you would say it, I move to amend as set forth therein, incorporating the amendments regarding the aluminum composite panels as discussed. I would just put it that way, and I know where it goes.
Okay, Mr. President, in regards to UDO text amendment, docket PC 2021-086. I move that the petition to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance in Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended, Chapter 10, Article 25, Divisions 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7, to correct various errors and omissions and clarify, add and delete language as set forth therein, receive a favorable recommendation from this commission to the Greenwood Common Council, and the same be certified to Greenwood Common Council in the form presented, incorporating the amendments.
Regarding the composite aluminum panels as discussed.
That's amazing. You didn't even see my lips move.
She took care of me.
Shauna, as always, thank you.
Have a motion by Mr. Shell,
Second.
second by Monica. All those in favor of that motion signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the extensive work that the
Yes.
planning department has put into this.
Any new business from the floor? Anyone? Anyone? Announcements?
We will have our next meeting. We will have business for our next meeting.
Okay, and I can attend virtually if I have to, correct?
No, we don't know. We don't know. We have to have it with
Your vice president may say otherwise, but you can't.
currently, we still have a public health emergency, so anyone can participate electronically.
Okay.
But he can only renew that every 30 days, so October 1st, we don't know what the governor will do. For you to be able to do it, we would have to adopt a policy to allow it, which we have not done so.
Let's see.
See what the governor does.
Because I'm going to try and be back, but I'm going to be coming back to North Carolina.
September
That's the next meeting,
27th.
right?
We don't know.
So, hearing that, would the board like to direct staff to work on rules for virtual attendance? To amend the rules?
Sure, I mean,
Well, that's what you're gonna ask to do.
I'm gonna say Trent, I'm coming back from that.
Will it be the same rules? You'll have to let them know prior to Friday if you're not gonna be here because of the advertisement of the planning commission meetings, like it was with the council.
Well, we have done this under the council, we can start looking at those, see if those would work for you.
Okay.
We do have a base to work.
Yes,
from.
please, Mr. Davis.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent call.
That's the long.
The record
Is
show
the
it's
lobby
9
clear?
minutes.